All right. Well, Alex, thank you very much for joining us. We have a great guest today. Alex is a you're the vice president of acquisitions at HPP Equity,
Yes, sir.
and I believe you're currently managing over 220 million in acquisitions and management. So we definitely have a heavy hitter with us today, and we want to learn about your what you currently are working on, your market, and your real estate journey. So why don't we start with that? Like tell us about how you got started in real estate and what has been your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. David, thanks for having me on here. Excited to be here. Real quick, high level. Yes, VP acquisitions for HPP Equity. HPP is a Midwest based asset management and investment company with right around $220 million of assets under management. Started in 2019 by a couple different partners. And our strategic focus here is multifamily acquisitions throughout the Midwest. So, um, just a quick little summary on HPP. How I got started in real estate that goes back quite a long way. So, it's I got started in the mid 20 teens. Just flipping houses with my older brother, like I think probably many people around my generation, um, David included, apparently. I got got started on bigger pockets, learning about real estate just as a fairly young man, and giving my older brother some free labor on the weekends as he taught me stuff, and made some of his first investments. So every weekend I would drive out from Illinois and flip houses with him here in the South Bend, Indiana area. And we just chatted about investments and business and flipping houses. So it was a great intro to real estate. And at the time, I was going to school to be a chemistry major, and decided one day that I wanted to get more into business. Couldn't see myself as a chemist moving forward throughout my life. So left school and became a office slash property manager over about 80 units near Northern Illinois University, for a gentleman that definitely became my mentor in that space. Took me under his wing, and while I was with him, he grew the portfolio from 80 to about 300 units over that period of time. Um, I did a lot of his management services, a little bit of bookkeeping, kind of kept the projects going while he continued to expand the portfolio. And he kept me very involved in the acquisition process, in renovations, pretty much the whole nine yards. So I was very, very fortunate to meet that gentleman, and got a very well-rounded career in real estate very early in the process. So, um, in the COVID years in 2020, 2021, my wife and I moved over to Indiana and started working as a commercial property manager for a couple of years. And so got to see the commercial side of the equation. So the first basically half of my career was on the management side of the business, um, which gave me a very unique perspective when I became an acquisitions analyst for HPP Equity 4 or 5 years ago now. Um, it made me very well rounded, and it made me ask a lot of questions about expense ratios and made sure I was underwriting realistically. So I think that realistic underwriting is what gave me a strong advantage in the field, and showed the team here at HPP that I should be could be a good leader for them, and actually run the acquisitions department as VP of acquisitions. So that's me in a very quick, condensed nutshell. Um, and we've done a lot of business over the last 4 or 5 years. purchased about $150 million worth of real estate in that time period, and recycled a lot of great LP capital. So it's been a very fun ride.
Very cool. Yeah, you could definitely write a book. And especially after everything that about to keep going, right? Like you're probably gonna be acquiring so much more experiences
I'm
during
very
this.
excited to do so, especially with what HPP has coming up the pipeline.
Yep.
Um, Very excited to see where it goes. You referenced me as a heavy hitter. I don't quite know that I'm there yet, but hopefully be able to achieve that someday.
Yeah. I mean, like we're always looking to keep growing, right? But
Hmm.
compared to many, you are a heavy hitter for sure.
Well, thank you, thank you.
Now, do you still do any flips? Or do you have like a portfolio of your own?
A little bit. I haven't done anything here in the last year or two, but that's
Hmm.
simply been because I've been too busy. Been too busy learning, and things have been pretty crazy here with HPP's expansion.
Hmm.
Here about 3 years ago, we moved into a new market, Northwest Arkansas. It was our first substantial market entry outside of the South Bend area,
Hmm.
and that was a massive undertaking. I actually performed some of the asset management duties on that portfolio and some of the initial project management on the first property that we purchased down there. And it was very, very involved. I ended up living in Northwest Arkansas for about 6 to 8 months to get some of those projects off the ground, in addition to underwriting new projects for expansion. So it was very involved, and kind of slowed down any sort of personal flips and small rental projects. I've been very fortunate, and had the opportunity to actually invest in HPP's projects as well. So kind of have gone that direction as opposed to growing my personal portfolio.
Well, even better, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
working to grow the portfolio, which is partly yours, if you're
Yes, sir.
investing in it, and you already have a pretty good backing in operational wise. It's a lot less risky,
Yes. Yep. Yep.
so that's great. Um, so what is currently working for you guys in this market?
Um, Lots of different strategies.
Mm.
I think it's important to try to condense down and find a specific niche.
Mhm.
And that's what makes the company the most successful that it can be. Um, Traditionally, back when HPP was formed in 2019, 2020, they were single family oriented and bought up a bunch of single family houses. At the height of the single family side, they had right around 500 units that was split site single family, which is a huge number for split site single family assets. Um, and then right around 2021, 2022, started transitioning the investment thesis. As I'm sure everyone knows, it got very expensive to purchase single family homes
Yeah.
during those years. And then interest rates started going up, and it made that specific strategy very challenging. So they still have a good chunk of that portfolio today. They've sold off some of them and kind of carved it into a working, operating portfolio that just cash flows and provides some good investment income. But the thesis today is much more multifamily oriented.
Mhm.
Um, and we really don't look at anything that's under about 80 to 100 units. Have a fairly hard cap at around 300 units. Just because what we've found is that if you go below that 80 unit mark, you tend to compete with a lot of mom and pop style investors and investment groups, or high net worth individuals that are just looking to deploy capital and take advantage of real estate from a tax perspective. So it tends
Mhm.
to get very competitive at that smaller end of the scale. And by the inverse of that, once you go over that kind of 250, 300 unit mark, you really start playing in the institutional world. So at that point, you've got a lot of people that are probably much smarter than I am, that have things down to an actual science on how to run properties, how to
Mm.
purchase them. It's become so systematized that you'll see 2 or 3 bids on those large projects within a couple of basis points of a difference on purchase price, just because they've all got everything down to specifically, how they underwrite things. So, we like to play in that in-between niche, because a lot of our capital comes from high net worth investors that just want to be involved in some of our projects, but aren't necessarily institutional grade and don't want to do it themselves on the mom and pop side.
Makes sense. So yeah, talking about systematize, how are you guys using AI? As you know,
Yeah.
and you probably have seen, AI is transforming not only the IT world, but like every industry and definitely real estate as well. So how are you guys keeping up with that transformation?
Well, keeping up, I don't know that anyone, either an individual or a business, can actually keep up.
Right,
So
right.
I I use that a little bit lightly, because as AI savvy as we are as a business, it's so challenging to jump around to the different softwares and programs. Um, I know, what was it? Probably 2 years ago, we were very much into ChatGPT and OpenAI and doing research with that platform. And then it seems like every 6 to 12 months, the strategy and the platform changes. For 2026 so far, we've been very heavy users of Claude, um,
Mhm.
which is a fantastic program, super impressive, everything that it can do. Um, what we use it for now, from an acquisitions perspective, I use Claude to and ChatGPT to filter the funnel. So HPP is primarily Midwestern focused, and we source deals from both off market and on market sources, through a wide connection of real estate brokers and commercial brokers. And what ends up happening is we'll get 50 or 60 broker emails on a weekly basis at least. And we have a very fairly small team. So looking at each of those independent assets, would be very challenging to underwrite and make sure that it fits through the investment thesis. So what we've done here at HPP is use a filtration system that we built into Claude. Um, and what we do is it will review my actual email inbox, for incoming broker emails. And I'm sure that it does. Let's say it looks at these with 90% accuracy. So I'm sure that we're missing some due to the filter, but at the same time, it's allowing us to do so much more business because it's looking at so many projects that we, from a personnel standpoint, wouldn't be able to review. So it condenses that 60 down to 5 or 10 that my team of analysts and myself are then able to take a second look at if it passes certain benchmark qualifications.
Mhm.
And then we do another kind of double underwrite for the ones that we're interested in. Um, we will run it back through a more detailed underwriting system in Claude, and then we have an internal Excel spreadsheet based system that we also underwrite. And we do all of that because one thing that it's important to understand is that AI often still hallucinates, and it will pull data in unless you're
Yeah.
very careful, that can be largely inaccurate. So that's why we do the double underwrite. Claude makes things quicker and smooth lines
Mhm.
um, smooths out the transitions and the funnel. But then we've got to double check everything through Excel. So at some point, I'm sure that we'll get to a point where the AI is very much able to underwrite everything accurately. but I don't quite think we're there yet. And we'll see where things go as time goes on. Um,
Hmm.
the other thing we do is we utilize AI by building templates to create our investment memos and our debt memos, and a lot of different reports and financials that we send to our investment teams as well as to our financing companies. And it takes a huge burden off of things we used to do manually in PowerPoint,
Hmm.
and saves probably hundreds of hours of time on an annual basis. And you get nice, clean reports as long as you're building those templates correctly. So
Yeah,
lots of
part of
different things.
I know, but that's great. That's great. That you have to, and you got to take advantage of it. And part of the strategy and being AI savvy is like, where do you want to have that human in the loop, right? It's important because it definitely hallucinates, and you don't want to be making it can create like some really big problems, as well as it can solve so many operational issues and the pain points. So talking about that, what is currently what are you guys trying to do? Are you guys trying to grow? And what is keeping you from growing? What are your pain points?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we are definitely seeking to grow. HPP is actually in the process of creating its first ever fund, which is set to open probably around December of 2026 or January of 2027. Been a very exciting process. Everything so far has been kind of quasi syndication. I say quasi syndication because when I think of syndicators, I think of crowdfunding and hundreds of investors investing into a single real estate deal. Most of our capital has come from close family and friends. The HPP team's fortunate to have some really great high net worth individuals that
Hmm.
invest and fund the majority of our deals. So it is technically a syndication, but there's only 5 to 10 people invested into any given deal.
Cool.
So Fund One is very exciting. We're becoming more institutional, um, and it's going to allow us to purchase more assets,
Hmm.
so long as the market allows for that as we come into the late 2020s. Um, and what's what we're doing is we want to be able to deploy about $100 million of capital through Fund One to
Hmm.
purchase right around $300 to $400 million worth of assets over the next 4 or 5 years. So definitely a strong growth trajectory.
Hmm.
Um, what prohibits that? A, a lot of different things. So here today, when we're recording this, we've got the Iran war still kind of active. So nobody knows exactly what's going on with that, and that has a huge impact on the markets and treasuries, which, as I'm sure folks know, treasuries control interest rates largely
Hmm.
on the debt that you can get for financing real estate transactions. And it it can be very difficult to underwrite and predict where things are going to go when politics become involved. So, um, underwriting and rates is one thing that we are having challenges with. I think it's also gotten very difficult from an operational standpoint, um, in how you scale and continue to grow things,
Hmm.
um, because it's challenging to get on-site personnel that stay at the properties and uh, scaling the management side of things is very challenging. So those
Hmm.
are probably our biggest specific pinch points.
Yeah, kind of like getting the right people, right? It's
Hmm.
so like hiring the right people and like reaching out, going through that vetting process. I guess that's what I'm hearing. And then
It
another
takes.
thing, so like kind of like lead generation in terms of like investors, right? Even though you're focused mostly on word to word of mouth, um,
Mhm.
I guess now that you're going to be opening funds, you're going to open that door to like a bigger pool of investors.
Yep, that's definitely the other side of the equation that's challenging. I think a lot of investors kind of got burned when interest
Mhm.
rates increased so much over
Mm,
2022, 2023.
mhm. Especially
Um,
those that acquired properties during
yes.
that time, right?
hmm There
Because then the
there were
value
some.
goes down, which, in commercial real estate and multifamily, that's millions of dollars probably.
Oh gosh, don't even get me started about the
Yeah,
office side.
yeah,
After COVID, that was kind of a bloodbath.
yeah.
But yes, so many investors lost a lot of equity and capital, and
Mhm,
what's happened is limited partners are taking a very hard look at sponsors and general partners before deploying their
mhm.
capital.
Yeah,
So you've got to have a great story. You've got to be honest and upfront with your investors if projects are having challenges. Um, and you've really got to genuinely look inside yourself and stress test these deals.
mhm,
Um, so that I see so much of the time when people are stress testing their investments, it's not a real stress test. It's it's kind of a hey, if things go down a little bit, we'll be okay, versus we'll take the resale price down 15 or 20% on some of the assets, and if the deal still works or cash flows, great. We know that we are genuinely downside protected, or we'll increase expenses by 5 or 10%. Now, no deal is probably going to look good when you do that, but
mhm.
it comes down to, does it still cash flow? Are you still safe? Are you protecting that capital that's been invested with you? Um, and that's how you genuinely can convince LPs to invest, is
Yeah,
look at their downside. So yeah,
yeah,
that was a great point.
yeah.
It's certainly a pinch point.
Yeah, no, completely agree. I mean, and especially now in this market, right? That
Mhm.
AI is sucking in all the liquidity, right? Like all
Yeah.
SpaceX and Claude and OpenAI, they're sucking in Nvidia, right? Like it's just like they're sucking all of the liquidity. So real estate has really come to not be a shiny object at all. And because of like all the issues that you just mentioned, then people are burnt out. But really, it is the perfect time to be investing in real estate, right? Like after a blood or a bad blood, now is the time to be investing. And in the next 5 months, sorry, 5 years, interest rates are likely to come down. So that by itself is going to increase the value of the
It
properties that you're investing in right now.
It is, and then you look at supply and demand as well, right? You've got
Mhm,
all these different developers that had a huge amount of supply come online through, let's call it 2022 to 2024, 2025.
mhm.
Well, then if you look at the pipeline moving forward, it really drops hard every year for the next 3 or 4 years. And so you're going to see a lot of recovery just due to simple supply and demand. And
Mhm.
then the problem's going to become there's not enough supply
Yep.
because everybody shut the pipeline off in
Yeah.
2024 and 2025. And so looking forward, it gets pretty tight. For the housing market. And what you said just a minute ago about the liquidity going into AI platforms is another great point that I hadn't even considered. Just because I'm so focused on the real estate side of things, I look at the benefits of AI in our business, but
Mhm.
there's certainly a detriment in that
Oh,
it's
yeah.
it's taking away liquidity there as well. So,
Yes.
great point.
Have you considered tokenizing some of these investments? Like using the crypto market to tokenize and raise funds that way? It's kind of
I
like a modern way to do it.
I have heard of that. That is definitely something that my counterpart, our VP of Capital Markets, Ben Bowerman, would be a little bit more familiar with.
Mhm.
Um, Not necessarily the area that I'm an expert on,
Yeah.
and probably shouldn't be providing too much feedback there.
No, but
Heard of it?
something
It
to
sounds
consider, right? Like it,
interesting.
especially now, like technology is advancing so quickly. I think
hmm
some of the strategies that modern real estate companies should be looking at is definitely AI, right? To increase the
Hmm.
efficiency of and like solve a lot of the pain points. The other one is if you're raising funds, tokenizing. There's this huge market, and now it's very secure. And then the other thing is like just thinking about having a strategic reserve in Bitcoin. In my opinion, is now like even countries are starting to do that, right? You
Yep.
see like companies doing it, and it's like a bulletproof reserve that for the long term is gonna like multiply, right? And so I think I even for investors that are more um advanced in like keeping up with technology and keeping up with like modern times, they would see that as part of your business value,
Hmm.
that you have capital reserves in Bitcoin, and that would be attractive to them. Even like to the Bitcoin community or the crypto community, they'll be like, oh, I want to diversify, put some money in real estate, but like, hey, look, these guys are actually pretty thinking ahead and they have a Bitcoin reserve. So I believe in these guys, right? Like they're not old school.
It's that's a very interesting point.
Yeah.
It's not something that our company or I personally have looked into, but I've
Hmm.
definitely heard of it becoming more prevalent in the industry. Isn't I think Grant Cardone does something like that
He
on his
started doing that. Yeah.
investment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so that it could be an interesting strategy, not something we've looked into yet. I
Yeah.
would love to learn and have more knowledge on that because
Yeah.
it could be beneficial in the future, yeah.
That's something I'm
What's
doing. That's a strategy
w
I'm doing in capital stays. That's my
s
my real estate company. We do well, not
okay,
mine, like I manage it. Um but we do corporate housing and we're gonna start looking into commercial deals as well. But definitely
okay.
keeping a Bitcoin strategic reserve.
Very, very interesting. So one of the things being a kind of a crypto novice, if you will, on my
Mhm.
part and a tokenization novice, um one of the things that I see in kind of big headlines is, hey, quantum computing is going to crack
Mhm.
some of the security and code on crypto. How do you feel about that? And what is the risk to tokenization
Mhm.
and having a Bitcoin reserve with that?
Yeah. So no, and fair point. And that's good that you raise it. Because when that happens, whoever solves it, they're not going to go after Bitcoin, right? They're going to go after JP Morgan, Goldman
Hmm.
Sachs, because their security is a lot more stringent than Bitcoin. So, like,
Okay.
most of the assets are actually outside of Bitcoin, right? Um, and what people don't understand is that the most advanced and the smartest cryptologists um, are actually in Bitcoin. So like Bitcoin is a software that continue upgrading itself. It's an open source that a lot of developers participate in. So like the last thing that will be hacked is Bitcoin, right? It's currently already the most secure network.
Yep. Hmm.
Um, and so and it will continue that advance. And they're already working on how to make it quantum computing safe and bulletproof. So yeah, like I'm huge believer. I discovered Bitcoin in 2017 and I just went down the rabbit hole. It's like once you actually start clicking and like understanding how it works, it's just you go into the rabbit hole, which is you can't stop learning about it. So I remember the first 2 months I was just reading and listening to and like reading books all the time. I didn't want to go to sleep. It's like so interesting. And then I started connecting how I could use it for like different financial strategies. But and then like real estate is great, right? Because real estate you can actually generate cash flow, and then you can start accumulating Bitcoin, which is like a reserve. And nowadays you can actually borrow against your Bitcoin as well at really low rates. So it's a very good strategy to like combine the two. in my
That's
opinion.
that's that's very interesting. Like I said, certainly not the expert there. I
Yeah.
would definitely be interested in learning more, and getting guidance on some of those paths forward and how to do some of that.
Yeah, I know. Like, so happy to continue connecting, and that's also part of like what I created this podcast. I want to learn about what other people are doing and how they're using those strategies, because that's how you keep up
Yeah,
and survive.
absolutely. You have to keep on your toes and continue researching regardless of what strategy you're taking. Stay focused and keep learning. In this day and age, knowledge, the old cliche, knowledge is power
Hmm.
is very, very true. The more information you can have, the more information you can process, um, the more deals you can look at, the more projects you can do, the more capital can deploy. It's very, very true. So,
Amazing. Thank you, Alex, so much for your time, all the insights, and we would love to have you in the podcast again and follow you. How can people work with you and follow you?
yeah, I'm on LinkedIn and most of the social media platforms. Not too active on anything but LinkedIn. Um, it's Alex Linden on LinkedIn. Work for HPP Equity. I have a consulting business that I operate for real estate. It's called Air Real Estate Consulting. It's got a website, airrecapital.com.
Hmm.
And happy to continue the conversation. Look forward to the opportunity to touch base again, and looking forward to seeing where your podcast goes and keeping in touch. Um, Podcasting is something I've always wanted to do. I think providing education for people and a platform to have discussions is critical, and love what you're doing here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I never thought I was going to be a podcaster. I always never thought I was good at it. And I'm not probably, but like at the same time, I'm enjoying it so much, right? Like I'm learning from like the best, and like just talking about real estate is a passion of mine. And both like real estate and Bitcoin and AI. So combining those three, it's amazing. So like I'm actually living my dream right now.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Keep living your dream and keep learning, David. It's great.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate you. We'll talk to you soon.
Awesome. Sounds great.